my crafty friend, and thank you so much for tuning in to today's junk journal flip through video. I've made kind of a prayer book set for this week, and I apologize that it's been a while since my last flip through. And last week I was going to do this book, but one of my aunties came to town unexpectedly, and so yeah, it was kind of a family weekend. But anyway, here we are. Welcome back to my regular viewers. You already know I've been working on this, and if you're new, I've been working on this for a couple of weeks now, and I think it turned out quite lovely. I made this part on camera last week, the little opening door that leads to the beautiful Madonna and Child scene. Of course, the little temple doors can be used for writing intentions or prayers or whatever other kind of spiritual journaling you might feel called to. The inside cover I kept very simple. And by the way, this is all from my printable kit, the Mother Mary printable kit. And this is from my Birthstone and Flower of the Month printable paper pack. But anyway, I've just kind of made a mini journal here using some of the printables, but instead of keeping this as the journal, I've decided to make it a pair, like a matched set, by kind of redoing this journal that I had. I took it out of my Etsy shop because it didn't quite feel finished, even though I had posted it about a year ago. So I feel like now it's complete as part of the set. But anyway, yeah, this piece of fabric here is upcycled. It was actually given to me by one of my grandmom's friends who salvaged it from her church, her Catholic church. It was actually the altar cloth, and then it got burned by candle wax that dripped onto it. So she asked would I be able to use it in my journals, and I thought, well, I know exactly which journal it's meant to be a part of. So anyway, yeah, if you are not religious, neither am I. I didn't really make this journal because I believe in everything Catholicism. It's more kind of an ode to the nostalgia of my Catholic upbringing and a love for the divine feminine, which I feel is represented, in the world of Christendom as the Mother Mary. But I also see her represented as Kuan Yin in Buddhism, as Devi, Parvati, Shakti, Kali, Saraswati in Hinduism, as Grandmother Spider in the First Nations tradition, maybe White Buffalo Calf Woman as well. So yeah, every religious tradition has some example of the divine feminine, and this is sort of my Christian version of a divine feminine book. But I've been planning to do one that's kind of non-denominational or all denominational as well someday, so you can expect to see something like that eventually. Oh no, this seems to have gotten a little bit glued down by mistake. You know what, I'm going to get, no, it's still usable. I'll just keep this as a tuck spot instead of a full-on pocket. Does this happen to you if you do flip through videos? You add something in at the last minute and then find your paper is glued to your other paper. It still works. I'd say that still works. So I found an antique French stamp, or a vintage French stamp, with these beautiful fleur-de-lis symbols, and I felt like that was an appropriate pocket for these Joan d'Arc or Joan of Arc missal pages. Basically, her life story is represented in these prints that you see. When she first heard a divine voice speaking to her, giving her instructions for how she can help her country. When she was there for the coronation of the prince, marching into battle. I love that The Holy Mother, the Shekinah, or the Holy Spirit, is represented here by the dove. And then sadly being burned at the stake because men in power never really like it when a female mystic takes charge and hears the divine and answers the call. But yeah, some beautiful paper that my friend May coffee dyed in Saudi Arabia. Some pretty vintage wallpaper that I found at a local thrift shop. More of my beloved May paper. These light blue sheets just really look to me like the color of Mary. They go with my ring. That's why I like this color of blue so much too. And yeah, I kind of tried to keep a bit of a blue theme for the beads and the dangles, just because we associate that as the color of Mary. Just a simple tuck spot here, and I put in a genuine vintage French card. Oh, antique, 1922. So yeah, genuine antique French First Communion souvenir card. If you missed my last video, I explained that to me, I don't necessarily think that Jesus meant for people to develop an institution by which only wizardly ordained men can turn bread into his body and wine into his blood. Personally, I think he meant to put an end to animal sacrifice when he said, "I am the Lamb of God, who takes away the sins of the world," and to eat the bread and it is his body. Because before that, there was such a thing as sacrificing lambs to allegedly appease people of their sins, and then they would eat those lambs. So yeah, I feel like what he was actually saying was, stop killing animals. If you want to kill somebody, kill me. And people, as they do, greatly misinterpreted that. But anyway, I just love this page. And if you are religious and you're offended by what I'm saying, then maybe this isn't the channel for you. But yeah. The pocket here made of beautiful sari trim and some really pretty velvet with like sparkly embellishments that kind of remind me of a night sky, although it's like iris flowers. So yeah, I folded this book page. It was a page out of an art history textbook, and I kind of used it to wrap this really cool vintage book that I found at a local antique shop that's entirely in the Welsh language. So Welsh is kind of a different one to find for our junk journal purposes. I shared some with Martina over at Magnolia Fairy Tale, and I've loved seeing it come up every now and then in her work too. So yeah, if you like that really unique textured paper, I included an entire little booklet so that whoever might feel drawn to buying this journal can have enough to play with in her own crafts. And there is a Miraculous Medal. Oh, and in this pocket, so in one of the junk jewelry jars that I bought, this entire vintage rosary was there, but broken up in like 3 or 4 different pieces and missing the crucifix. So I kind of counted the beads and realized it's all here, and luckily I was able to put it back together. So I decided to include that in this little pocket. And since the central medal is like a First Communion souvenir medal, I also attached a medal of Our Lady of the Rosary, because I feel like Mary is meant to be there in the center, and so she is. And I kind of find the crucifix to be too gruesome for my taste, so instead of that, I've attached a really beautiful, decorative looking cross pendant that I found in another jewelry jar. So yeah, if you like adding jewelry to your journals, I do always recommend go thrifting. Look for jewelry jars or jewelry pouches. You never know what you might find. And I just think the colors in this cross go perfectly with this cover. Like the gold with the gold, the blue with the blue. Yeah, the closure is just a bow made out of some fabric, kind of a dark blue purple color. And I'll make this flip through fairly quick because I didn't add much to it since the last time. Like, it's the same little fabric pouches, the same cute little stick pin. I did stuff the envelope though with some of the reproduced prayer cards that are in my Mother Mary printable kit. I love this one as a bookmark. Bernadette of Lourdes having her vision of Our Lady of the Immaculate Conception. Cool story there. Church officials didn't want to believe that an impoverished peasant girl who wasn't educated could actually have made contact with the divine. And so they tested her by asking Bernadette, you know, ask this so-called apparition who she is. And the apparition revealed, I am the Immaculate Conception. So, je suis la conception immaculée. And that was before the Vatican ever publicly revealed that they were implementing into the church dogma the concept that Mary is the Immaculate Conception. So there would have been no way for a peasant girl in France to have that information. So it kind of confirmed that Bernadette was telling the truth and that she really was in touch with something of the divine feminine. And then these are the only masculine characters I've put into the book. We see St. Francis of Assisi, the patron saint of vegetarians and patron saint of animals, with a wild wolf curled up lovingly at his feet. There's a story there, and he's preaching to the birds because he didn't see animals as less than people. And then St. Francis of Paula, he was the first recorded vegan in the Western world. He didn't eat animals, and he also didn't eat animal byproducts. And the miracles attributed to him, recognized by the Vatican when he was canonized, include bringing animals back to life after people killed them for meat. So I don't know if he actually did that. It's hard to say when something happened hundreds of years ago, but at least we know that he fasted and prayed and desperately wanted for animals to have their rightful lives restored. So because those are very close to my own heart, the Francises are my favorite saints. And speaking of saints, this is a little reproduction booklet of pages out of a French architect and engineer's manual. I made this on camera too. These pages are included in my Mary printable kit. But what they are, there's like a year's calendar from 1912, broken into columns by the month. So you have January, February, March. In French, of course, avril, mai, juin, juillet, août, septembre, all the way to December. And each one shows you the illustration of the predominant zodiac sign for that month. And then in the bottom grid, it shows you the day of the month, the day of the week of that day of the month, and then the saint who's celebrated on that day. So yeah, in Catholicism, there's like a different patron saint for every single day of the year. And these were the saint days and feast days as celebrated in 1912. And what's cool is that it was a leap year, so you get February 29th included. So just a fun little extra. I attached a little angel charm to this bookmark. These are vintage receipts from 1950 from Austria, gifted to me by the lovely Angelica. And I pinned to it reproductions of prayer cards. So Our Lady of Lourdes, blank on the back for your journaling. And then on the other side, a reproduction of this beautiful Mary First Communion souvenir card. And then, yeah, I kept a lot of space here just for journaling. This is some coffee dyed paper that I glued onto an upcycled vintage book page. I love the title of this book, The Understanding Heart, so that's kind of why it made it into the book. A vintage postcard reproduced. I put a little flower pin on it, so you can take this off and actually wear it if you wanted to. But the little flower is there on this page because there's a pocket holding the little flower of Jesus, as she was called, Saint Therese of Lisieux. And she's blank on the back. This is not reproduced. This is a genuine antique prayer card. This rose that she's tucked behind is reproduced, though. That's actually a hand-drawn piece of art made by a French child that I actually ordered along with a pack of other papers from Sarah at Petite Papier Shop. And then we have some map page that I took out of an old atlas. Used that as a pocket. I put a book page from a book called A Life Illumined. It felt like another appropriately titled book page for a project like this. Another image of Bernadette with the lady, blank on the back for journaling. A little mini envelope. This was actually from a printable kit by the Paper Cameo. And then in there I put a little itty bitty reproduction of a prayer card from my Mother Mary kit. And just a bunch of little stamps that can be used for your own journaling. I love these ones. Speaking of divine feminine, this is more of a Greek goddess looking figure, but really pretty vintage French stamps. So yeah, they're all different in the little envelope, but perfect if you like to do collaging and add stamps as collage elements. Or you could just leave them in the little envelope because they're cute there. These are one of my favorite things to put in junk journals, kitsungi vases or kitsungi inspired paper versions of vases. This one is glued down as a tuck spot, but this one is in there as a pocket to be used as a journal card. Kitsungi is the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery with pure gold pigment mixed in with a pottery glaze. And it makes the vase more valuable than before it was broken. So I do a paper version of that where I tear the paper and then repair it with gold paint. And if you're interested, I did make a tutorial, I think a couple Decembers ago, that's up on my channel, teaching you how to do that. I put a bluebird of happiness in every journal I make. So this was a card that I found out thrifting. The bird on it was originally red, so I took my blue paint and turned it into a bluebird. So yeah, there's your little bluebird of happiness. Really cool Egyptian print there. And then just some extra vintage and antique book pages for your journaling pleasure. These ones are in French. These two obviously are in English. And it's such a pretty wax paper rose envelope. I think this came along with a Happy Mail from May. It's a little butterfly pocket over some vintage wallpaper. I love these end pages from old books because you get lots of writing space and you don't even have to copy dye it. It's like naturally aged to perfection. So that just tucks into there. We have two views of a not just antique but ancient goddess figure from Romania from 500 BC, so like 2,500 years old, give or take. So even before the religions we know of in the world today, there was always a tradition of worshiping the divine feminine. I love this. This is a reproduction of a postcard. This is in a printable kit called Treasures from My Personal Junk Journal, I think, or Victorian treasures. The vases are in that same kit. And then this is a beautiful print of a child fairy flying on a moth, painted by the beautiful and talented Cat Stone. Her art is so magical. I love putting pieces of it in the journals. And then this is a magic eye. I don't know if this is right side up. You're welcome to pause the video and look at the 3D image if you want to. But I just love these. They're so kitschy and nostalgic for those of us who were kids in the 90s. And then some of my favorite Canadian insect stamps. I thought they just went well with the moth and the moth. Okay, here's one of my favorite things from this new printable kit. They are journal tags, but each one is a different saint medal. So I won't go through all of them because I've already kind of shared all of these. Our Lady of Guadaloupe is the only one in the mix not actually a saint, and I think Michael is the only angel in the kit. But yeah, I made these on camera in the video 2 weeks ago, so the last video on my channel. And this is how I decided to include them in the journal, just kind of tied onto a string, and you can see how they're looped over the string from the back here. But yeah, on the reverse sides you could put down, you could write prayers to these individuals, or things that, you know, maybe quotes that they've said that inspire you, or just whatever you want. Big piece of paper for journaling. The tuck spot is made from an origami paper that I folded up just for fun with some pretty cranes, and a beautiful vintage French fairy tale stamp stuck on top. And then yeah, just some Canadian accounting pages, antique, a beautiful mermaid, another example of divine femininity, some Mary Lake blue trim, feminine portrait, stamps tucked over. I like this. This could be used as a bookmark somewhere. It's just a vintage section of an envelope. I almost said postcard. And then I glued some trim down onto it like a pocket and used it to hold one of these English to Russian dictionary pages, just because I thought it was fun. See, midsummer, it's fun. I didn't actually check to see what words were on that page, but that might be a fun little word search for someone. And then that just slips on here, but again, you could take that out and put it anywhere. This is a page from the Architect Engineer's book that this printable came from, so you can see the difference. I printed these 2 per page instead of 1 per page, but if they're printed 1 per page, they come out just about this size. So yeah, that's the original, not a print. An envelope folded over and paper clipped in, another page from A Light Be Lumen, and I used the envelope like a little pocket to keep an ohm. Ohm is one of those things that it's the sacred syllable as per Vedic tradition. There's a really cool book called The Holy Science by Sri Yukteswar Giri. He was the guru of Yogananda, who's famous for writing Autobiography of a Yogi. And the entire book is a collection of verses from the Bible as well as from the Hindu Vedas, cross-referencing and corroborating one another. So there are a lot of things that are written in the biblical text that are also written in the ancient Indian texts, even though those two cultures didn't really have the same belief structure or the same belief system, you know, one being monotheistic, one being pantheistic. But what's interesting, I think it's in the Rig Veda, I'd have to double check, but in one of the Vedas, it said in the beginning was the Om, and basically everything that exists in our 3D physical human reality is a reflection of that sound, of the sound Om, the sacred syllable. And in the Bible, most of you will already know, in the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Well, Om is considered to be the word spoken by God and also God. So it's kind of cool how there are some very, very, very close parallels between those two religious traditions. This is a really pretty autograph page that Angelica sent me from Austria. Stunning calligraphy, like handwriting. You can tell whoever wrote this had fun with the way they drew their letters. And that's all the way from 1936, so nearly antique. Some fun Australian stamps. And that just clips back in. I feel like I need to use this today. It's so hot in here. This is a really fun handmade, hand-decorated Japanese fan that you can easily take out by removing this pin and then using it if you wanted to. But yeah, these pages just have, I love including these in journals, just a collection of textile samples pinned onto this 1960s ledger paper. Here we have a vintage playing card, another beautiful piece from Angelica, and a little journal card of the Holy Spirit. And this was also out of my Mary printable kit. Lots of blank pages to actually do your journaling on. Some handmade paper with silver and gold, kind of tinsel-y stuff. Vintage book pages and map pages and some collage together. Old book page, old music page. This is from an instruction book on how to use a typewriter, so you can imagine how old that might be. Some dot grid paper. Just some folded over old printer paper that still had these perforated holes on the edges. A book on how to be a secretary, I believe. Oh no, sorry, French grammar. It's the same size and shape as one of my secretarial guidebooks, but yeah. Oxford and Cambridge French grammar guide. More beautiful paper, coffee dyed by May. This is out of an old craft magazine, so some really cute embroidery ideas. And here you can see some of them used in the embroidery on those old aprons. We have a really pretty purple train ticket from Sri Lanka. A risen cross, because, like I said, I find the crucifix too gruesome. We don't want to see him constantly nailed down and killed by idiots. We'd rather see him rising again. Pretty little upcycled charm that kind of looks like a little crystal cross. This is a stunning vintage French illustration. This scan is also in my Mother Mary printable kit. Then a gorgeous sort of witchy woman hiding under a raven wing. She has her strand of pearls that kind of reminded me of rosary beads. And a beautiful familiar, her kitty. This is also art by Catstone with a winter coming. Just so beautiful. So maybe the raven or the crow is keeping her warm. More paper out of that typewriter instruction book. In case you weren't sure how to hit a key on a typewriter, it's showing you how. I like those vintage instruction books because they sometimes diagram things that seem painfully obvious. Another beautiful piece of cat's art. This one has three-dimensionality to it, like actual glitter on the page. And then there's a St. Joseph medal. Oh no, sorry, St. Anthony. When I was a little girl, somebody told me that St. Anthony is the patron saint of lost objects. So if you're ever looking for something, you can call on him and he'll help you find it. So I used to do that. More of these pages from the Russian, English to Russian dictionary. Some pretty cotton fabric that has a big open ticket that you can kind of write on, maybe with fabric pens. A Saint Thomas et Principe stamp. I think this is a Slovenia stamp. Let's see. It's hard to tell. Oh, Poland, I think. Polska. Forgot to point out where the center of the book is sewn together. I had blue beads and also a tree of life glass tile bead. But yeah, I'll try to kind of hurry it up as I flip through the other sides of all those pages. I love this. This is one of my all-time favorite wrapping papers. A little fairy door in a tree with a little cute little insect under the mushroom canopy. You can see his home in the roots of this little tree, and then maybe he's going to visit a neighbor who lives in this tree. I love this kind of psychedelic old kids book pages. It's out of the Beauty and the Beast story. Obviously before the beauty turns the beast back into the prince. Very sweet. Tucked under a star paper clip, and then it's a moon paper clip on the other side. And then that's kind of reflected in the lunar symbology on this tuck spot. Some pretty handmade khadi paper from India, which was also a gift from Kat Stone. A little collection of vintage playing cards. You can use these to maybe make washi tape sample cards, or add them as tuck spots or pockets in something, or include them in craft swaps. To go with that space theme shown by the sun and moon, with some really fun space themed kind of washi tape inspired sticker strips, and zodiac signs, which I've always loved. So yeah, the back doesn't have quite as big of a religious theme as the front. This is stunning. This is from the 1800s. And just look at that script, that font. Really beautiful. Another piece from Austria, from Angelica in Austria. This is drawing paper, so you could maybe take a letter opener or something and rip it open on the bottom if you want to have extra pages for writing, or you could use it as a tuck spot, as I've done. More of that Egyptian. This is why I chose that Egyptian illustration. Just look at this. The Sphinx as she was imagined by early explorers before the face was fully uncovered. Yeah, and now we're at the back. So the back page is a pocket made out of this stunning fabric that May sent me. Put some fringe on the bottom just because it's pretty. This gorgeous paper here is more handmade khadi paper from Kat Stone. Indian paper from India. More of this hand-dyed paper from May. Some beautiful blue paint chips. I found a really cool account on Instagram of a girl who, or a lady, an artist, who takes paint chip samples like that, and then she makes mini works of art, like miniature paintings in each one, using, in each painting she somehow incorporates like the paint chip color in the work. I'm doing a terrible job of describing it, but if you Google it, I'm sure it'll come up. Another vintage wallpaper sample. This is fun. So I ran a little bit of like stick-on wallpaper, this stuff, stick-on wallpaper. I ran it through my embosser, and it just made such a gorgeous, beautifully detailed embossed image. So you can peel that off and stick it down somewhere, and then even the backing paper, as you could see, looks really, really gorgeous. So it's kind of a 2-for-1. Once you use the sticker part, you get an extra imprint of it just on the solid white background. Yeah, and then one more vintage playing card from Angelica, and I love the peacock on this one. I do a lot of peacock themed junk journals, and so you can imagine the next time I do another peacock, that will go in it too. But yeah, there it is, my Mother Mary inspired Divine Feminine prayer book junk journal. So let me know what you think. As always, every journal I make, I try to include a matching ring, a thrifted or antique shop ring find that somehow goes with the theme of the journal. So I chose this one because it reminds me of kind of like an Art Nouveau version of a stylized Vesica Pisces, which symbolizes the Divine Feminine as kind of the primordial opening to the womb, so like the source from which everyone is born. And I love it because it kind of looks like a couple of hearts and top to top. But yeah, I found this at one of my antique shops in town called Grandma's Antiques, and he has a fun ring bin that I like to dig through. So yeah, that is kind of a Divine Feminine symbol in a ring. And then all of this can kind of get stuck into this front pocket to make it more of a complete journal. So yeah, I'll just show you how it looks all tied up, and then I will let you go enjoy the rest of your day. Let you. I mean, you could have gone anytime up till now if you had wanted to. So if you're still here, thank you for watching the whole thing. I do appreciate it. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this little craft. Oh yeah, see, there's that Vesica Pisces shape there again. There's a place in Glastonbury called the Chalice Well, and a stylized version of that symbol is in the ironwork on the gate, on the well. What do you call it? The well cover? So yeah, worth a Google if you're interested in sacred geometry kind of stuff. So yeah, there we have it. That's the project for the week. It's in my Etsy shop as of the time of this video being published. So if you feel like it's calling to you and meant to be yours, you can find it there. And yeah, so are all the kits for all the printables in here, except for that one little mini envelope. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little flip through. I hope you're having a good, creatively inspired, crafty time. And I will see you again next week with another video. And next week, I'll just show you what I'm working on. Next week, I'm going to do a space-themed video using some of these beautiful antique things. These I just received this past week in a surprise happy mail from Martina, whose channel is called Magnolia Fairy Tale? Is that it? Something fairy tale. Oh no, I should have written it down. But yeah, she just absolutely blew me away with this. It's a Sanskrit guide to Vedic astrology. And these characters are called the Navagrahas. They're like the governing deities who rule over the visible planetary bodies. Like we have Surya, the sun, and Chandra, the moon. Rahu and Ketu, they're the nodes, the two nodes. But anyway, it's kind of creased up from the way it was folded, but even still I scanned it and printed it out on mulberry paper, and I think the printout turned, like, it looks, in my humble opinion, just as good as the original. So anyway, I still have to scan, I still have to scan this image here. And once this is scanned, I'll put it together in a new printable kit along with these two Vedic astrology images, and also with the images out of this really cool cosmology book that I ordered from Petit Papier's shop. Look at these three beautiful women sky gazing and charting the cosmos, and oh, I just adore this antique illustration. So yeah, I scanned these already. Like I said, I just have to put it all together in a printable kit. And I would have printed some out already to show you as an example, but wouldn't you know it, I ran out of black ink on my printer, so I'll have to get some new black ink. And then I'll put that space-themed book together. But anyway, that's coming up next. Let me know what you're working on next too. I'm always curious. And now I'll say bye for now. So much love to you, and happy crafting.